Baltimore City Council Budget and Appropriations Committee. I'm Councilman Eric Costello from the 11th District, Chair of the committee. I'm joined by Council President Brandon Scott, Councilman Ryan Dorsey from the 3rd District, Councilwoman Shannon Sneed from the 13th District, Councilman Isaac Yitzi Schleifer from the 5th District. We are also joined by Matt Stegman and Nina Themelis on behalf of Mayor Jack Young. We are joined by Kaylin Young and Dominic McAlilly and Rebecca Simmons on behalf of Council President Brandon Scott. And staff to the committee is Marguerite Curran. We are here for the law department. I will turn it over to Acting Solicitor Dana Moore. Dana, the floor is yours.
I'm here, Council. I'm here, Chair.
Pardon me, we have Vice President of the Council, Sharon Green Middleton from the 6th District. Councilwoman, my apologies, I didn't see you.
No.
I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Good afternoon, everyone. Acting City Solicitor. Today is day 100.
We're just dealing with some technical difficulties. We'll get this fixed right away.
Is this better, Councilman Costello?
Much better, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm never going to make it on stage or screen, really. Okay, here we go again, round 4. I'm Dana Peterson Moore, Acting City Solicitor for the City of Baltimore. Today is day 100 of my serving in this role. I began as the Deputy City Solicitor for the City of Baltimore on November 7, 2015. Today, I am joined in the room by Annika Barnes, who is our Chief Operating Officer, Human Resources Professional. She's been in that role. On the phone is my Legal Special Assistant, Khadijah Fuman, who's served months. Listening in via WebEx, our practice group chiefs. Since I've taken over this position, we've very robust and active 100 days. Have been very
Mr. Chair, we're still having trouble hearing the solicitor.
Okay. Hang on one second.
Okay. Is this better? This is much better. I'll just hold it. Okay, I'll just hold it to my mouth like it's a microphone. Okay, in the first 100 days, we, the law department, have been very robustly helping the city respond to the COVID. For example, we helped turn the convention center into a field hospital, contracted hotels for housing and sheltering our underhoused citizens. We have entered into contracts or helped the city enter into contracts to stand up a food distribution plan. Very, very important to all of Baltimore's citizens. We've contracted with healthcare providers to provide test kits and testing sites throughout the city, and we have secured much needed PPE for our first responders and city workers. We've established protocols to help make, to keep our workplaces safe so that people can come back to work. And we've also helped secure a tool for tracking employee coronavirus-related health data so that they can return to work safely. We, the law department, have staffed the Emergency Operations Center and the Joint Information Center, drafted numerous executive orders, and there's one coming today, regarding the pandemic emergency. And in what I think is a first, we have worked with the county attorneys from surrounding jurisdictions to share our knowledge and experience in response to the pandemic. And this is a group.
Madam Solicitor, Mr. Chair, it's the sound is still is fading in and out, so it must be something in the microphone that's not connecting.
Yeah, we're working on getting them.
Yeah, maybe get me another headset.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you, Mr. President.
right. Well, is this one not working? That's in the box? Okay. Why go from bad to worse, right? Now you can hear me. So when I turn my head, the mic goes with me. So I don't understand. Okay. Um, can you all hear me okay? So even as we have been working to respond to the pandemic, we've been doing what we would call our regular business for the law department. We have responded to a lawsuit regarding the Baltimore Police Department's aerial surveillance program. We've supported and assured Baltimore Police Department compliance with the federal police consent decree and all of those obligations. We've prepared statements regarding the significant cases confronting the city, and that's in response to legislation enacted by the City Council, by this body, last year. We have argued cases in state and federal courts. We've argued cases on appeal. We've also filed lawsuits. Just last week, we filed a lawsuit against a company called Juul for to stop their efforts to market e-cigarettes to Baltimore City youth. We fielded a myriad of Maryland Public Information Act requests, and they are coming in daily, specifically with interest in how the city has responded to the pandemic. And we expect more requesting information on how the city has responded to the demonstrations. We have defended a myriad of lawsuits against the mayor and city council. Just on Friday, we got a ruling dismissing or granting the city's motion to dismiss the city from sort of a catastrophic case where individual was lost his life as a result of a landslide here in the city. We've analyzed many or all of the bills that y'all have initiated here in the city council, and we have responded to many, many concerns of your constituents. We get them often, and we try always to respond to those very, very quickly. We've defended and or settled workers' compensation claims. Many of you know that we brought workers' compensation in-house. It's we're now in our second year, and that has been a successful decision. And we have collected millions of dollars in revenue owed the city. So who are we as a department? First and foremost, we are the city's dedicated law firm. We consist of 107 attorneys and professionals, all hyper-focused on protecting the city, preserving and protecting its assets, and collecting revenue and damages it is owed. A number of our team have been employed by the city for many years. Some are in the mid-range of years of service, some are new. Several attorneys are working under a contractual arrangement that recognizes their desire to continue in a retirement status and dedicate themselves and their tremendous talents to helping the city in very meaningful way. We are lean. We are innovative. We are cost effective. We are a good bargain. We are tough. No means to go to us. When we are told, no, you can't do this for your clients, for whatever blah, blah, blah reason, that's a signal for us to dig in, put our heads down, and lead the challenge. Our successes show the wisdom of this. We are aware. We know who our clients are, and we also know the challenges that you face. We work with our clients, not against, to secure the very best outcomes. We know that by doing this, we're doing what's best for the city of Baltimore. We are adaptive. Change for the good of the city is very good for the city. We are committed to this. Here I reference our quarterly reports on significant litigation. We thought this would be a really difficult thing for us to take on. We did it, and those reports are posted quarterly on our webpage, and they can show you really in detail the work that we're doing. We are forward thinking. We are looking ahead at litigation we know is coming the city's way. Here I reference the GTTF and wrongful incarceration claims. These are a real concern, and we are working with BBMR and other city agencies to help prepare for this. How do we do what we do? We are aligned in practice groups, and I won't detail them all, but I provide that information. And we work under service numbers. Administration, controversies, transactions, MBU, police legal affairs, and workers' compensation. So here I'd like to pull up our presentation, our slide. Monica, if you could bring that up and I can walk through each of our service.
Anna, is someone else presenting or?
Yeah, Annika is having, again, technical difficulties, but she's bringing that up. I can talk about.
I'm just going to ask that we keep the rest of the presentation to about 5 to 10 minutes, just so we can get into council member questions.
All right, so our first service line is service number 860, and that's administration. And that's really myself, our chief operating officer. That's the administrative aspect of the city, the law department. You could go, Annika, to controversies, please, which would be slide 3. So controversies is where our litigation attorneys and team reside. There are 58 positions in controversies. This is where we have litigation, appeals, collections, affirmative litigation, labor and employment, and CBI. Transactions is the next service area. That's number 862. And that group consists of contracts, advice and opinions, and the corporate real estate function. This is where we have the attorneys who are working on contract because they're so dedicated to the city of Baltimore. The next slide is 869, and that's Minority and Women's Business Opportunity Office. I won't go into a lot of detail about them. You will be hearing from them this afternoon. Police Legal Affairs is service number 871. There we defend, provide legal representation for the police department, police officers. We handle complaints against the police officers, and this is where the work of assuring compliance with the federal consent decree resides. Workers' compensation, as I mentioned earlier, there's 8 positions. That's service number 872. We brought this in-house about a year and a half ago. We're now in year 2. We did this because we believed that we would save the city money. In our first year, we've saved between $380,000 and $580,000 for the city of Baltimore, revenue that has stayed in the city's accounts. And that's the quick overview, and I'm ready to take questions.
Thank you. Can you take the presentation down, please? Mr. President?
Can you take the screen? Who's that guy over there? Who's that gentleman? Is he from Visa?
Hang on one second, folks.
There we
Thank you.
go.
Mr. President, did you have any questions for law?
Yes, sir, I do actually. Sorry about that, Mr. Chair.
All right. You're up,
Uh,
sir.
thank you, and thank you, Madam Solicitor, and thank you for you guys' work. I have a couple questions. One, I think you already know where I'm going with this one. Can you talk a little bit more in detail about how you guys are preparing for the GTTF misconduct cases and where we are in that process, and if you guys in finance have like put any kind of estimated figures on what we're looking at?
Yes, thank you for the question. We are preparing by, first of all, we are keeping track of all the complaints that have come in, made an analysis. We have actually a separate group within the police legal affairs that is dedicated to looking at those cases and managing them. We've done an analysis of the types of claims. There are some where we believe that the city liability and will be dismissed from those claims. There are some that are small dollar value claims, and we'll decide whether or not on a case-by-case basis those are claims that we should settle. There are other cases that could bring significant liability to the city. Here, the cases that are wrongful convictions because of the actions of a member of the GTTF, those are the cases that are going to be the most costly, and making an analysis of whether or not there is city liability. Some cases, we believe there is not city liability. Some there. We began talking about these cases and thinking about these cases probably 2 years ago. We've been regular basis with BBMR to make an assessment of what we think the cost range could be, set aside reserves. As the cases come in, they will start appearing on the sheet that the City Council requires that the law department provide on a quarterly basis, and we are happy to provide. We'll be able to see, and all of the citizens of Baltimore will be able to see in real time those claims as they start coming up. I believe you're on mute, Mr. President.
Sorry, if you thank you, and if you could provide any of that analysis to us that would violate any, rules or regulations, that would be greatly appreciated, man. My second question for you is just about the is about service number. Give me 1 second. It's service number 869, Minority and Women Business Opportunity Office. So this is one where I believe I just want to see we only have 5 positions in that office, and I know the great work that Mrs. Brown and the team does there. I want to see if you guys have looked at what like offices in cities that are similar to Baltimore are as far as their staffing and where they are. Have we done that comparison? Because I'm just going to be frank here, 5 positions is not enough in a city like Baltimore for them to make sure that our minority and women's businesses are being treated fairly throughout our process. It's just simply too much work for that small of an office. Have you guys done an analysis and look at that and where you think how many positions would actually need for that office?
I can't tell you how many I think we need, but I can tell you this is one of the first things that I had to look at when I was the deputy city solicitor. The then chief of was pretty adamant that the staffing level could be reduced, and we didn't think so. The then solicitor and I very much disagreed, pushed for that to not happen. The positions did not get filled, and so as a consequence, those positions were not funded in fiscal year, I believe it was fiscal year 18 or fiscal year 19. Now, MBU is very much challenged to get all of their work done. I know that we're bringing for at least one person to help with certifications. There is a plan to bring 4 people from procurement over to MBU. That will help a lot. MBU's mandate is fairly narrow, but the work that is required to carry out that mandate is huge. An MBU of 2019, and since Ms. Brown has been chief, an MBU of 2020 is very different than the MBU that I met with the law department in 2017. They are far more robust. They are far more active in making sure that compliance is actually met. She is and her team are far more thorough in analyzing submissions. So they are too small. They need to have more people, and they need to have more budget. I see this need being addressed by positions being transferred to MBU from other agencies, and I believe that there is support for that.
How many are being transferred?
I believe 5, 4 from procurement and 1 from another agency. One person has already started with MBU, and the back end of actually having all of that transferred over is underway, but not yet finalized.
Okay. Thank you. And last thing for you, Madam Solicitor. So you know this budget is the first that's supposed to be worked on through a lens of equity. So every agency head is going to get this question from me. Can you talk about how you guys went through working on your budget with finance in that way?
How do we work on our budget with an equity lens?
Yes.
I honestly can't say that we did specifically look at from an equity lens for the budget. I think the law department is a little bit different in that our a law firm. I can tell you what I think about the equity. I can share my equity concerns about the law department. In terms of the budget, I can tell you what the challenges are, and the challenges are manifest because of COVID. When we knew that COVID was here in the city and that it impacted certain populations differently, I looked at who was in that population, and I'm in that population, and I'm a woman. We wanted to put everyone on telework. There are 5 or 6 people who just are not eligible for telework because it's really require them to be present in City Hall or at 7 East Redwood. And when I looked at that and who those people are, who those individuals are, I realized that they were and are older women. And that to me, that tells me that we have an issue that we have to fix. We have to figure out how to alter jobs and alter the job requirements so that anybody who needs to telework do so. And how do we accomplish that? To me, that's not a budget issue. That's a human rights issue, and it's a civil rights issue, and it's happening right here in the law department. I have asked that all 6 of those persons be on permission leave, because the last thing that I wanted was to have them in City Hall and be at risk of. So I had to make that decision, and it was not even a hard decision. I think it was the right decision. But that is for me the primary equity issue. I look at equity also from the terms of who's doing the work, who are the chief attorneys, what are the salaries, how do we have salary equity, how do I make sure that women are paid equal to men, how do we make sure that across years of practice there's parity. The former solicitor did a really good job of making sure that happened, and that job continues. So I'm not sure that I'm really answering your question, but I can tell you, on a day-to-day basis, the equitable concerns are that I think about. The bigger issue for the law department I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but we're not always competitive in how we compensate, um, you know, individuals. Just someone that wants to leave their current agency and come into the law department is not likely to do so because the law department is less for that job than the other agency. And I've lost people to the office because we're not paying as much. I've lost people to other law departments. That to me is also an equity issue and it's a fairness issue and how to compensate people.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Now you answered the question, and the question really is it's really will create a follow-up for finance, not for you. But thank you, and thank you for your work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Vice President Middleton? You're on mute.
One statement and one question, and my statement is, Dana, you have been just doing a yeoman's job since you took the lead. And as far as equity, people sometimes we have to keep reminding everyone that you were the first female, African-American female to hold this position. And you broke a barrier that was needed. And you continue to do the wonderful work that you have been doing in such a short time. And then I guess my somewhat question, when you were talking about claims, I know here on the council, we have a constituency that has, sewage backups, the water meter thing. We passed, and of course, the mayor signed the Water Accountability Equity Act, which is the DPW is in process and working on and has committees. And I know that there's also probably a representative that's on that committee following that. But as far as the claims with some of that sewage backup in these low-lying areas, is that taking a lot of funding from our general funding source?
So I don't believe it's taking any resources from the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah, when we settle lawsuits, we settle through the suits and judgment fund.
Okay.
We are still getting those cases. We are still settling those cases. Some property owners are comeback cases. They've been with us 2 and 3 times, and we continue to settle them.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the nice words. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Councilwoman McCray.
Thank you. Madam Solicitor, I just had a question about Service 872, the contractual services. Was that large jump, was the large jump in contractual services, was that also transferred? I see the one position was transferred, it says from 707. Were those contracts transferred for 707, or can you speak to the contractual services?
When you say contractual services, are you talking about workers' compensation, 872?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes. So when we brought workers' compensation in-house, we had a number of positions that were dedicated to that work. We were working with one person who was with risk management, and we ended up bringing her over into the law department. And that just got completed or consummated maybe 3 or 4 months ago. We also just this fiscal year, or this coming fiscal year, have agreed to take on Mercy Hospital contract. That work will be just making sure that the medical services that are provided through Mercy Hospital for our workers' compensation are paid for. So that's not money that we get to spend for ourselves. that is money that we will be managing and making sure that outside third-party vendors get paid.
Thanks for the clarification.
Sure, and sharp eye picking that up.
Councilman Burnett,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you.
you, Councilman Dorsey, Councilwoman Sneed,
Thank you. I just have a quick question. Under Service 862, does this basically answer the questions for the PIA request for city schools in the Baltimore Police Department?
Are you asking who answers those?
Yes, that under 862, is that the?
So 862 is where advice and opinions, general counsel said, and you all know them as Elena and Hillary and Vic Turvilla. They are the ones that, really it's Hillary Ruley. For a while it was Khadijah Fairmont answering all of the Maryland Public Information Act requests. For this city schools, they have their own group that answers their MPIA requests. We will consult with them as needed basis. In other words, if they ask for help, we will provide it. It should be made clear that the city schools has its own Office of General Counsel, so they're able to handle most of their own legal concerns, and that includes MPIA. With the police department, we will work and help the police department respond to MPIA. We meaning the law department.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Schleifer,
I don't have any questions. I'm good. Thank you.
colleagues, any other questions for law? Dana, I have one question. I think you touched on this a little bit beginning. Can you dive a little bit more into the potential exposure related to the GTTF cases? Or what are you at liberty to say in a public forum on that?
I think I'm at liberty to say what you've asked, that you do have potential liability. We are not, 100% certain of the scope and breadth of that liability. Have tried to sort of compartmentalize it and get our hands around it. As many of you know, we did have a case that was decided recently by the Court of Appeals that really opened up the litigation and the potential for liability. That did not go our way. So now we are left on a case-by-case basis to assess each claim, do our very best to defend against it. I think we have about 40 or 50 claims that are already filed.
Got it.
We're managing it.
Understood. Thank you very much. Dana, you're doing a great job. We really appreciate all the support we get from Elena and Hillary and Victor. So they're obviously great representatives of the law department. We're now going to go and recess. Colleagues, when we come back, I'm going to ask that, for the sake of transparency, that city council members turn their video on for the duration of these hearings. So, Dana, thank you very much. We are now in recess
Thank
until
you.
4 o'clock, and we will be back then for Charm TV and Mayor's Office of Cable and Communications. Thank you.
Thank you.